In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to build a super simple early game villager breeder. Hello guys, my name is Death and welcome to this early game villager breeder tutorial. Before we get started, I'd like to direct you to the description for the chapters for this video because I'm going to be going into detail with this breeder. The tutorial will come first, followed by a long explanation and any troubleshooting steps you need to take. This breeder can produce 14 villagers per hour, so that's 7 villagers per breeding pair, as long as you're feeding them an appropriate amount of food. With that being said, let's get into the tutorial. So to get started, we've got a 5x5 area here, and the first thing we're going to do is build up the walls on the outside. Next up, we want to build the wall in the inside here to separate the two breeders. Now let's focus on putting in the beds. So what we're going to do is we're going to place 2 blocks out like so, with another 2 blocks below. This will allow us to build the bed platforms on either side like so. For this breeder you're going to need 8 beds in total. You can get these by either crafting them yourself or by raiding villages. What you want to do is you want to replicate this on the other side before we continue. Once that's done, we're going to place 2 temporary blocks here like so. We're going to remove the wall here, and then we're going to make use of some trapdoors. This will trick the villager AI. So to start, place a trapdoor like so, open it, and then place another one right there. This will then allow us to break this block here, creating a drop chute for the baby villagers, and then we can remove these temporary blocks. Do the same on the other side. And once that's done, you can get your villagers in place. I'd recommend either dropping them in using minecarts or moving them into position using boats. You'll know this thing is working if you get green particle effects next to your villagers. That means that they have detected and claimed the beds on the other side. To ensure that this thing is working before you start breeding them, let one day-night cycle pass. Once that's done, you can start breeding them up. To allow breeding to start, the villagers need to have at least 12 food items. These food items can be either carrots or potatoes. In this instance I'm making use of carrots. So let's throw them to both villagers and we'll wait to see them do some breeding attempts. And there we go, they are starting the breeding process. You'll know this is working if they start throwing food to each other. There's a very small chance that the food may end up down here in the drop chute, so it might be a good idea to have a hopper minecart inside a block to capture any loose items. Now that we've got the breeder working, I think it's time we do a fully detailed explanation of the villager breeding process. In order for breeding to commence, villagers need a few things. Food, which we've already covered, and they need beds. Since we have 2 villagers in the cell or the breeding pair, you'll need 2 beds plus at least 1 additional bed for the baby villager. In this case I'm using 2 because sometimes the baby villagers like to stand around in this section up here, but they always make their way into the drop chute eventually before they grow up. The way the drop chute works is baby villagers like to jump on top of beds. So in order for this system to work, you need to make sure that the 2 blocks, these blocks here above the beds, are free. No other blocks can be in this space, including trapdoors. That will cause problems. Also, these blocks here and here need to be air as well because that will also stop the villager breeder from working. And now, since each pair can produce 7 villagers per hour, that's about 2 villagers every Minecraft day. So what normally happens is after you run this for a while, they normally sync up quite nicely, so there's normally 1 baby villager in the morning and then 1 right before the game turns to night time. Now don't panic if you see the baby villagers walking around in here or just standing on the edge there. They will always make their way through this system. If you do encounter trouble with this, you can always set up a water dispensing system to stop that from happening, or just let the adult villagers push the baby villagers into the holding cells like so. So at this point you've built it, we've explained how this thing works. Now you need to know how to fix this thing if it breaks. Now this breeder can break in a multitude of different ways. Let's cover each of those ways now. So for starters, you may see some angry clouds. above the villagers, this means that they either no longer have access to the beds or all the beds are occupied. So in order to stop that from happening, what you'll need to do is you need to replace the beds and then make sure no other blocks are obstructing the pathfinding of the villagers. If you're playing on a paper or spigot server, you may have difficulties with this breeder design. In the instance that you do, once again, replace the beds, make sure your trapdoors are in the correct orientation, and you may also need to place a trapdoor in this block right here. If that doesn't fix it, make sure this block is free, make sure it's clear, and this villager breeder should work. Now, as I said earlier on, this is an early game villager breeder design. It's perfect for a day one world, so when you've started you can get this breeder up almost immediately. The one problem you will have is providing this thing with food. Now, you can hook up a crop farm with this. Personally, I don't like doing that. I like keeping them independent because it gives me a little bit more control over when this breeder will run. And not only that, I use this breeder for a multitude of different situations. I use it to populate my villager trading halls, iron farms, and bigger villager breeder designs. And there we have it. You now know everything you need to know about making this villager breeder design. I originally designed this thing and made a tutorial for it a year ago. So if you want any additional information, make sure you go and check out that video. And for next steps, I'd highly recommend building this villager breeder by Jcraft. This is a more endgame design. Make sure you go and build that when you need more villagers. Thanks for watching.